I worked 1 year in Citibank, and that's when I thought that I'm not cult to do research and desk job. बोलते हैं ना, व्यापारी कीड़ा was always there because you come from a family of businessmen.
How did you figure out that you want to join a real estate company at that point of time?
I didn't want to be in a corporate environment, so I started my journey from holding a bag also, bidding for a plot also, to giving a redevelopment offer, to doing HNI sales, to looking at permissions, to looking at tenders, everything how a business can grow.
Was it easy to get that first project in Santa Cruz?
Either you're a risk taker or not a taker, because eventually धंधा ले लिया, 3 months you take paperwork, due diligence, title, etc. How do you pay for the money? Because I realized on a good, bad, ugly day, banker, lender, vendor, supplier, broker, all the associates will only come to your office. And you should have the answer. Lost money can be earned, lost time, lost reputation, and lost peace of mind cannot be earned.
What things do you see before hiring these HODs, and how do you manage or make the culture in your organization?
It is an association where both until mindset, thought process, and vision are not 10 on 10 aligned, partnerships don't work.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Speaking Real Estate podcast. Today with us we have a very special guest, Mr. Parth Mehta, who is a managing director of Paradigm Group. I'm very excited to host you today and get a great amount of learnings, because knowing and being aware that how you have started your journey from working somewhere at a real estate company to today having a real estate company of yours and catering to taking care of 300 people, doing an annual turnover of 500 to 600 crores. That is something very unimaginable for people today, and something which people wish to do and aspire to do. And like talking to your team also, they do clearly speak out that how inspiring you are to your whole team as well. So very glad to have you, Parth bhai.
Thank you, Krish. Thank you for calling me over. And it's really amazing what initiative you've taken, trying to bring in industry experts from different domain, different experiences, expertise, and share as much knowledge to our viewers. And it's a great initiative. All the best.
So would like to start off with your education.
So, Krish, I did my education. I started from Manikji Cooper School. It is ICSE school from Juhu, Mumbai. So I'm born and bred in Mumbai. Our family is since over 50 years in Mumbai, especially Khar, Santa Cruz, Bandra area. I did my entire schooling from Manikji Cooper, Juhu. Then I did my college from Narsee Monjee. And then I did my bachelor in management studies from Usha Praveen Dadi, which was an arm of Narsee Monjee. So again, it was the Mithibai NM kind of vibe, where my entire circle used to be in and around between Juhu to Bandra. And yes, after graduating as bachelor in management studies, I was working for a year in Citibank as an information analyst. I worked 1 year in Citibank, and that's when I thought that I'm not cult to do research and desk job. And I think as a personality trait, I felt I could do much more justice where front ending is concerned, more of research, adding to where I can use it to gather business or grow businesses. So I felt that बोलते हैं ना, व्यापारी कीड़ा was always there because you come from a family of businessmen. And all my life, prior to that also, I've been doing some of the other things along with education. Like I used to work at a call center in my early years of FYJC, SYJC. I used to call for music systems from abroad and trade it in vehicles. I used to deal in cars. So always the whole spark was always there to do something on your own and try and create value wherever there is a arbitrage. And post working in Citibank, I realized the education is really important in today's time. So I realized that it's important I pursue my MBA, because there was never an inclination to do business, so that I get a right job, I get a right package, I can start with a good organization. So yeah, after that, I did my MBA from SP Jain, Dubai, Singapore, Global MBA. It was a 1-year program. That's where I was able to get a lot of international exposure, meet a lot of people from cross country, a lot of our Indians who had gone there. We all had taken education loans and traveled. So we all were very cognizant on getting a good placement from your institution. So yes, I finished my education from SP Jain in 2006-07. And that's when I didn't opt for college placement. I felt I would like to join real estate. So I had already got a job with Vadwa Developers. We were based out of Bandra, and that time it was a very growing company. It was a very aggressive organization where I felt that it would be a perfect platform where I could join. And I was very lucky to work under great leaders like Mr. Vijay Vadwa. That time, Mr. Sanjay Chabria was working together with Vadwas. So I joined as a business development manager. And that's how my journey started in real estate.
How did you know that or figured out that you want to join a real estate company at that point of time?
So I'll tell you, I never planned in detail that I wanted to get into real estate. What I felt is I want to be in a environment which helps me do multiple things. So there was option where I had done my MBA in wealth management. So Krish, that time we had a lot of placements from banks, equity analysts, research firms, etc. But I realized I don't want to do that, but still I want to have the finance acumen or the knowledge, the know-how of at least making decisions where cash flows are concerned, numbers tweaking is concerned, looking at numbers and understanding businesses. That is very important to as a learning. But I realize I'm a guy who want to implement it to grow business or to kind of use it where I can have a scalable model that can work. So I wanted to join a group which is not very large. B, I wanted to be in an environment where I could report to the promoters. C, I didn't want to be in a corporate environment. So I started my journey from holding a bag also, from bidding for a plot also, to giving a redevelopment offer, to doing HNI sales, to looking at permissions, to looking at tenders, to looking at everything, how a business can grow. So I was blessed that I got into an organization where that time they had a team of 40, 50 people, and they grew from 40 people to 400 people, larger office scale, bigger projects, from a redevelopment company to companies which were taking the largest plot of BKC, buying the largest lands. So understood the banking side of it. So it was the most amazing, you can say, university, I call it, where I got to work under 3 promoters who had very different working style, but still a shared vision of having a great growth. And yes, that was like, I can say, my true education into real estate happened with my first stint at Vadwa Developers.
How many years did you spend over
So I
there?
spent about 3 to 3.5 years with Vadwa Developers. So up till 2010, I was with Vadwa Developers. And then at that point in time, I started realizing that only salary or job was not exciting me. What I felt was if I could get a land deal, I could do an acquisition, I could convince a society, I could do the approval bit with the architects, I could play my part in the design part and touch all the facets which are required to start a business. So I felt I'd learned well. So I realized I wanted to be with an organization who could reward me based on my performance, so that it is not only the fixed side of it that I have to look at it. The variable side should have been attractive enough, which gives me, you can say, the fire in the belly or the spark that how to grow the organization and myself grow with the organization. At 2010-11, when I got married in 11, I had no intention of doing any business on my own. I was very happy getting a fixed payout and a variable payout. And it was an intent just to do well with the organization, be with a company which grows and rewards your efforts towards growing the organization also. So that time I joined this organization called Parini Realty. They were a Bandra-based development company doing a lot of work in Juhu, and they had one project in BKC. That time they were a team of 11, 12 people run by family brothers. And I felt it was a perfect organization where whatever I'd learned in my Vadwa years, I could amplify it because they also had that same hunger, the vision, and the attributes to grow an organization from A to Z. So I felt it's amazing. So I joined there as a CEO, and I developed a team from 11, 12 people to 130, 140 people. We took about 8 to 10 projects together. I spent about 4.5 years with them. I did sale across their projects of almost about, me and my team, of about 2.5, 3,000 crores total sales we lined up across their various projects in Juhu, Andheri, Worli, etc., Borivali, Kandivali. One unique thing I learned there was how to do large societies and SRA development. So I should put all my my learning or gratitude towards that organization who gave me a free platform to learn how to vacate a society, deal with slum dwellers, deal with land guys, deal with society committees, and take larger projects. So, working with a company. So again, why I'm putting emphasis in this? Any young guy who's having aspiration to grow. So working with an organization who has the same drive to do scalable and large work is the place that you need to be. If you're doing small standalone building, 20 families staying, what value addition you will do? I mean, I feel today Bombay is an ocean of opportunities. So little mid to large projects give you that scale to understand different human behaviors, psychological negotiations, understanding the pain points, understanding how a smallest thing can derail a project or delay a project. So how you should be cognizant on touching upon all those minor things. They say don't micromanage, but you learn micromanagement when you do large projects because there are so many moving parts. You have to bring all of them in a consolidated format and move forward. So yes, wisdom of Vadva developers, the faith of promoters, versus when I joined Parini, I could scale the development. They had the vision again to grow. So we took large projects. So automatically as a professional, I still call myself professional. I'm not an entrepreneur. I work for a company called Paradigm Realty. But as a professional first, it gave me to look things beyond a tunnel vision, beyond a microscopic view, and give a little telescopic view, wider horizon, so that I could, as a professional also, look at things which are challenging in every different project. So that you can't get bored. Every day there is a new challenge, and every day you are working more solution oriented. So that keeps you on the top of your game.
I think so. You didn't had it figured out at that point of time, but you have it a mantra. I would say like a person, a youth should join a company which is growing and has that drive that person wants to have. Is a great way to select an organization or a place where a young guy or a youth should work somewhere. That's nice. You witnessed Vadva Group going from 40 to 400 people. And again, you implemented that in Parini Group, which you made it grow from 11 people to 130 people. I feel you got the perfect experience and you got the opportunities. You made the opportunities for yourself, definitely. But after all of this, you started your own company, Paradigm Group. But at point of like real estate being so much capital intensive, having so many risks, where every day today also regulations are getting changed so fast and you cannot rely on various things, doing a project which is which might have a timeline of about 3 years, 5 years, where there is a lot of uncertainty. Knowing about all of these factors, still you took the step to and laid the foundation for Paradigm Group. What gave you that strength to lay that foundation?
So Krish, with having a 8.5 year, 9 year experience under the belly, working as a professional. Again, I said I had no intention of becoming the developer because I didn't want to raise capital. Like you said, capital being the biggest challenge. 2014-15, I started realizing few things that while all both the organization I worked with, they were not capital heavy. They still raised capital looking at the opportunity. And I learned one thing very, very important, how you're breaking down the risk. How you are kind of segmentizing your risk, where a risk can give you erosion of, if a bad day event can give you erosion of profits or erosion of hard work, but it will not break you down and go down to from where you started or lose everything on the table. It's never all in. So if you are able to assess the risk in every project, that's when those decision making helped me, that if I could do it for organization as an employee, I could do it for myself. I'll tell you, in life, you have to understand one thing: nobody is right or wrong. Everyone has a perspective. If you are in a family-run business, your father has another perspective. You would have another one. A partner may have another one. A sales guy may have another one. Construction guy may have another one. As a promoter or a leader of an organization, it is very important that you are aligning everybody towards one shared goal. And if the shared goal and those value systems are in place, I think business becomes a hobby. It's a fun ride where every day you're doing things because you know what is your ultimate objective and goal. As larger organizations grow, everyone has varied vision, varied working styles, and varied perspectives. As a professional, I will again say it was never right or wrong that I left a job or I thought of doing development on my own. I felt my perspective and my vision and my ethos were very different. And I wanted to carve out a, a path where I could lead to my value system. That's how Paradigm got created. So A, I never had capital. I started with 11 lakh rupees. B, when we took our first office in 2015, August, we started Paradigm. We rented an office in May, June. Immediately when I was quitting my job, we had a budget of 1.5 lakh to 2 lakh rupees of rental. Beyond that, I did not have budget. 3, we had rentals of only 12 months that could suffice us in a manner where we would do things. 4, we had started with a team of 3 people, one being my driver, one being an old accountant who used to work with me from Vadwa days, and my wife, who's one of the chief advisors at Paradigm now. She's an engineer, MBA, CFA level 1, and she brings in a lot of financial wisdom from the finance background side. And we said, look guys, the vision is clear. That time Subodh Kumar, DC rule changes, multiple things had happened. So we were very clear on one thing, that we realized one thing. A city like Mumbai, you buy land, you can't even cover a 15% IRR. Because the land cost is so high, the opportunity cost of money going under land is so high that after that, how much ever effort you put, unless prices go so obnoxiously high, you don't make money. So erstwhile, developers made money because of inefficiencies. FSI बढ़ जाता था, land का value बढ़ जाता था, sale rate from 10,000 became 50,000. So in the 2000 to 2010-11 era, people made money because of inefficiencies. More the delay, more the return. 2011 and post that, everything became a cash flow game, timing game, a early exit game. So we realized that we'll never be able to map the exits if we put too much money on the land. Money should go towards value creation, that is construction, approvals, and anywhere value is created, because 1 rupee you put in construction, you get 4 rupees collection. That much value you are adding every day. So we realized we'll not get into formats of purchasing land, nor I had an option. I didn't have capital. So this was the only format I could enter. We started with one redevelopment in Santa Cruz. Then we took up a couple of projects which were small SRAs, one of that being in Khar.
Was it easy to get that first project in Santa Cruz?
It was again due to relationships. It was the building where my parents were residing.
Okay.
So I was born and bred in that building. It was easier for me to convince those members.
At the same time, did you have a thought that if, like, obviously keeping the positivity out there, but if something goes haywire, and your parents' house was there?
So I tell you, as a professional, or by birth, either you're a risk taker or not a taker. There cannot be medium risk. It's either murder or no murder. It cannot be a half murder. So either you take a leap of faith and you believe in what you're doing. What was my downside? That I would not make money. I had never issue of selling because I had got experience of 8.5, 9 years. My family, my house was there. So I could take some lap and all on that loan, on that flat, create some capital to pay the rent corpus and vacate society. I was blessed in life that my intentions were good. That's why I got good investors who bought stock day one. So project got funded well. So because of, again, my previous avatars and relationships that I had over the last 8-9 years in the industry, I got investors who believed my vision and they made money with us. They got an exit. They got a product in 18 months. We delivered fast. When the first project you deliver in under 21 months and you make a good product,
you get noticed.
You get noticed. 2, you're not a brand, you get noticed even more. That who's the new boy on the street. Immediately I took my first project and I raised capital on this building. I immediately took 2 projects from the pre-sales of this product.
Got it.
So I locked my Khar society of 2,000 meters and one slum in Borivali which was 7,500 meters, which was a very large project. We took it because I was again believing that if I have to grow, I have to grow scale. I cannot do one by one things. So after our first project, whatever pre-sales we did, we got the tokens, we got the advance 10% money. I first planned my cash flow that this building till 4-5 slabs, my money is mapped with my pre-sales. Of those 4, I had only 7 units to sell. So I had sold first 4 units. Whatever excess cash flow I got, we locked 2 projects. A 2,000 meter plot in Khar, again a JV, and Borivali. So again, the idea was to grow in scale because you worked on large projects and individually as a promoter, you working on small things did not excite you. So money was never the exciting factor. The pursuit of creating value And growing as a scale was the exciting factor. Okay, cut to, we locked. Now ideas had to raise 40-50 crores because eventually dhanda le liya. 3 months you take paperwork, due diligence, title, etc. How do you pay for the money? So I realized again that time I had two options. Either to go the debt way of trying to raise money from friends, family, capital, pay interest, or dilute certain equity in projects, get investors who ride the shared journey with you, and at the end of 2 or 3 years completion, provided money is gone in the work, they'll make profits. They earn also, you earn, and you get to ride the entire story. You are the driver of the car, you are the pilot of the plane. And I felt this will give me one mid-sized project, one redevelopment, and one large project. It will give me an entire umbrella of experience that is required, because altogether was almost 10 lakh square feet, 8.5 lakh square feet. Khar was 1.5, 2 lakh square feet. Borivali was 6 lakh
This all
square feet.
happened within first year
First
of
year,
your...
2015-16. First 1.5 year. Went ahead. You won't believe, Krish, I must have gone to 70 to 80 investors. I took my pitch deck, I took my numbers. I was an MBA, got a glorified PPT done, showed the roadmap, showed what I had done for the previous organization. Almost 45 to 50 people never gave me a revisit. Size 7, 8, 10 people committed to me some capital, and they gave me hopes that they will give me the money, and I kept chasing. So my day used to be like morning 9:30, 10 to 1 o'clock, finish the office work, and after 2 o'clock it was only raising capital. Gave a lot of interviews. हम बोल नहीं सकते चप्पल घिसे, but yes, I had to fish a lot. And I was very blessed that a few very, very influential HNIs were a key backbone of the organization, where they trusted my vision and they committed me good sum of capital.
Like you were already in relations with those
No,
guys?
so very interesting. One of them was my old investor who had invested in Parini.
Got it.
And he had some experiences which were not that great. And I was still available post I'd left also to solve this problem. So one thing I'd believe that even if, see, in business, every time tides are not right. Sometimes things go plus minus. What is important is, as a leader, you are always reciprocative and you are responsible for the deal that you've done. So if that invested via me, I was always available to him even after I'd left. So even in my first project, I had done some business where he had bought something with me in the previous avatar where I was doing a job. And he also had some experiences, but I was always available to solve it, even if I was not in the organization. So there was a trust that, look, things go up and down, your money is safe, your investment is safe, and I'm still available for any bad day event because I've sold you stock. So they became my investors. So first couple of people were my backbone, where one of the gentlemen who was from Korea, he's like an elder brother to me. And I happened to go to Dubai, I met him, I shared with him my Borivali project vision. And in the first meeting, he committed money. So he's today also like an elder brother, a chosen brother who's not by blood. He backed me. Then a few individuals in Bombay backed me. And we gathered the much required seed capital, you can say. From there, your performance was talking. Then banks started coming. NBFC started coming. They lend you first 5 crores, then 15 crores, 20 crores. So Paradigm 1.0 was born in 2015-16, and we were excited. We grew team from 3 people to 20, 25 people. 17, we took another office, took another 25, 30 people, and we grew. 18 came, NBFC crisis, all was again coming. We realized that, look, this DM model is very attractive. Now, this I will call it Paradigm 1.0, first part of Paradigm, part 2. So in that, we were very happy that we partnered with a couple of grade A developers who are large in size. In DM, where they had the land, they had the FSI, they had the permission. We had to come and construct and sell. So we partnered with Hubtown, then one developer in Thane, then in Ghatkopar, where we got it into a fixed fee format, and we took up the construction and the sales responsibility and the working capital needs.
Can you explain a few things about DM model?
So it was a development management model where we are not essentially buying the land. It's a contract between the erstwhile landlord or a developer, who's the original owner of the plot, who has the rights with him, and he's bringing in a co-developer to do a certain activities to complete the project. That may be in terms of sales, construction, approval, funding, managing cash flows, or completing any obligations of the project. So we partnered with a couple of developers, and we got to do large projects. Like we did in Chembur, 2 towers in Chembur, in a very, very posh locality. Then we did next to Kokila Ambani, 3 towers. Then we did Thane, 1 tower. In Ghatkopar, we are completing now 1 tower. So we did 3-4 projects in DM format. So that gave Paradigm the scale. अरे लोग तो 7-8 project कर रहे हैं. So automatically we didn't have capital. Banks were backing us that time. We took certain DM projects. We only took projects on the intent that the developer whom we are partnering is a person who's of a right intent, and we will not have any kind of disputes there. So where there were relationships, we only did DM there. And we felt that there was enough value on the table. We needed someone who can just collaborate, and together we both can make our respective profits and complete the delivery. So we were very happy that all the few projects we had good experience, good relationships. Till now, we all have amazing relationships. So we never had any experience which was not that great for development management. But that was a time when markets were not very good. It was a lackluster market. Somewhere fundings were difficult, etc. Today what happened is, today's time there is funding available, there is sales available, permissions are fast. Everyone can do things on their own. So now development management is not that tempting for the erstwhile developer to do it. That time, in that era, between 2018 and 20, it was the right time, right environment that a developer could collaborate. So we did that. So that was again Paradigm 1.0. So yes, we in our 5-6 years, we completed over 1,500 homes that time, delivered 5-6 projects. And then we started realizing that to grow into the next orbit, Paradigm 2.0, we will have to look at projects where we are in control. Because I realized on a good, bad, ugly day, banker, lender, vendor, supplier, broker, all the associates will only come to your office and you should have the answer. So we started realizing that, look, we'll do projects where we are fully in control, and it will be strategic alliances with a landlord or a co-developer of no hisab kitab, but either a revenue share or a area share, but we will be in control of the entire board. Because that time we got brand conscious, that we are, because in our first few projects we realized that in collaboration, somewhere accountability was getting lost, priorities were not getting addressed. So we were very clear that whatever we'll do, we'll deliver to our customers whatever is promised. We will, even if somewhere there is a mistake made, a quality issue has happened, in COVID, delivery issue would have happened in terms of certain things not being done, we've been accountable enough to stand by and rectify it. We have always given a ear to the customer, because we were very clear that we want to be in the business for next 30, 40, 50 years. So we cannot cut corners, cannot really brush under the carpet any of our obligation which is committed to a buyer.
So you did certain partnerships, JVs or DM models during maybe 3-4 years starting your organization, and you did understand few things which made you to take up a decision that further onwards you will need to have complete control of your project from A to Z. You might do certain collaborations, but the driver has to be you. So what were certain things, or what were certain things that you faced particularly during that time which made you that you have to be the driver of your own car?
See what happens now. Partnership is like marriage. It is an association where both, until mindset, thought process and vision are not 10 on 10 aligned, partnerships don't work. So I came to a synthesis that partnerships work where either the two partners are doing all projects together and they are sitting in the same office and they are completely in alignment of all aspects of the development, then partnerships work. Because again, like I said, each one has a different perspective, different priority and different understanding. Nobody is right or wrong. But eventually, our business is like a relay race where you have to keep passing the baton to everyone concerned, right from approval to acquisition to design to OC to sales to collections to legal issues to ensuring delivery is made at the site to construction and procurement. Every player has to play its role. So decision making should be very, very unified and one-sided. Because anyone who has a dual decision making, the process is lost in transit. So what happens? A 2-year project will become 4 years. A 100% sales project will become 80%, 90% sales project. Or we might sell it at a lower price. Strategy will not get implemented the way the business plan is envisioned. And you, again, coming from a family of real estate development, you realize also very well that our margins are very, very thin. In a good day event, it is 20-25%. Bad day event, even 10% is not there. Because cost goes up, raw material price goes up, if last 10% is not sold and last 10% is not collected, a developer cannot make money. He's only turning around cash flows. So I realized that to ensure, why are we working so hard? Why are we putting in our heart and soul? It's not only for the passion. And my balance sheet has to speak the same language that your passion is speaking. So I started realizing even if we do less, sometimes less is more. We controlled our aspirations where we said we'll put our house in order. We all got into our drawing board because by then, from 2000 onwards, we had an HOD team of 10-15 people who have individual experience of 15 to 20 years. So about 150 to 200 years of collective experience was there in my head of department across all the spectrum. We told them, look, boss, this is what is the vision of the organization. This is the way we want to work. And we will do collaborations. We will still not buy the land. We will still do joint ventures, but the format we will change, where we want to keep control of few things which are important to the brand, because our brand is our currency. Our brand is the reason what is going to pay for our bills, and we cannot have a transactional approach where philosophy of the company keeps changing trade to trade. Our philosophy, ideology, ethos has to be in place where we do things if it fit. Otherwise, even if there is unlimited profit available on the table, we should be able to walk away and say no. That's what we inculcated in 2000. That's why I call it Paradigm 2.0. So the moment we put certain principles into our business and the way we work, our growth became 3x to 4x. Right from 1 million square feet work, we came to almost 5 million square feet of work. Because A, we were not doing business by compulsion. B, we were not taking decisions based on emotions and rashness. We were taking based on logic, what is good for the organization. Can we complete the project? Can we reach the finishing line? And can we make profits after reaching finishing line? We were asking ourselves answers all the time. So what happened in the due course, we signed 4-5 projects where we paid 1, 2, 3 crores advances. We realized either we will not be able to complete it due to whatever reason, either we were not in sync with the partner, or we were not sure about our strategy of taking forward. We said, no problem. We told the landlord or the erstwhile developer, sir, आप आपके पास जब भी पैसा होगा हमको वापस दे देना, we'll not move ahead and we'll not do it. Because I came to know one thing, which I learned in this industry. You can change the title of a plot, but you can't change the title of a partner. So if you know that the end of the day, marriage is going to lead to a prenup or a divorce or any kind of thing which is not in sync with the business ideology, your one project is more than enough to take you down 20 years of your business hard work.
Definitely.
Because according to me, one project is 30% of your working career. 1 year acquisition, if you're lucky, with permissions, 3 years execution, and 1 year post-execution wrap-up. 5 years out of your 40 to 50 year ideal career journey.
Yes.
Is around 30%, anywhere between 10 to 30% of your working journey is one project.
Right.
So you have to be so sure as if you're getting married.
Right.
And if there is a blink of an eye where your sleep is disturbed, or there's a second thought that is coming in, I tell all young entrepreneurs, write off the money. Lost money can be earned, lost time, lost reputation, and lost peace of mind cannot be earned. So that is my only message. That anything that subconsciously, what happens when you travel a journey, subconsciously you get an answer. कि मेरे लिए सही है, गलत है. Nobody needs to tell you. Nobody needs to guide you. The discomfort will come from within. Something will trickle you. Something will give you irritation. The moment you reach that level, leave it on the table. हाथ जोड़ के निकल जाओ. Life is long. Age is by our side. We don't spend money. We spend age and time. We have to spend age and time that gives us happiness and doesn't give you second thoughts. So I'd say never have a plan B. Have a plan B insurance only where your stop loss is concerned as a business model. But in your business decision making, don't have a plan B. Have your plan A very clear. And if your plan A is disturbed, then you go to a plan B and not pursue that particular road. But don't put your legs in two boats and try to swave choppy waters. You'll either fall or you will be drowned. So choose one boat, but be convinced.
It is a thing like you focus on one thing, you do that thing. When you focus on two things, you might not get even any one of them. And you beautifully explained this part where why a person shouldn't go into the partnerships, where even if there is a chance of 0.1% that you don't have faith or trust and you think things might go off the boat, then you should just write off the money or just get done with that for that point of time. Move ahead and you'll get back with the time.
Also, one more thing here, what happened, Krish, is partnerships now. My grandfather was in contracting business. I'll give you a short background. For 50 years. He expired in 2007. That's how I started into job and pursued my higher education, and I immediately thought I should go there. He was one of the leading contractors in Mumbai running this company called Mehta Jaising Contractors. They've done Dalamal Tower, Hinduja Hospital, Jujim Khana as a contractor. We were not very well off, but we were ethical, good partners with a Sindhi group for 50 years. So I used to ask him, Dada, 50 years partnership kaise kiya? He gave me a very beautiful answer. Okay, Parth, if you were 50-50, I always thought I'm 40%. I asked why. 10% I used to give it for any opinion difference, any manduk, any working style difference, any calculation error, any losses encountered in decision making, or anything where there was no intent problem, where there was no chori chakari or no cutting corners with partners. If there was no intent loss, I was always happy in my 40. So for me, my 40 was my 100%. So there was no chance of dispute. 10% मैंने छोड़ ही दिया था, मेरा है नहीं. Let my partner take it more or let it be lost in the transit. And I was very happy. I lived a peaceful life. I slept for 8 hours a day. And that summed it all. That if you have that forgiving nature, if you are able to look at the big picture and able to let go of your chest, then you can do partnership. And two is if there are no ethic issues or moral compass issues, you have to give one person handling one thing. Two drivers cannot drive a car. There has to be one driver. So एक driver अगर construction देख रहा है तो एक finance देख रहा है, and both have to be equally aligned. So these are the few things which in my early years I learned from my grandfather, because he walked away from his contracting business. He did not fight with his partners. He was not well health-wise. My father was a green card holder in US. Then he had come to Bombay. So he had his principles very clear in life, where money was not the driver. For him also his value system and clarity was the driver. So I also work my business on clarity. There is limited that you can capture in your agreement of 100 pages, 200 pages, 30 pages or 1000 pages. End of the day, you have to look eye into eye with the partner and be clear. Okay, this is what I can take and not take. I don't know about whether this will give you more money or more success, but it will give you a good level of peace of mind, satisfaction and a good sleep. I think that is more priceless than any amount of money.
Definitely understood. Again, extending this point to the whole concept of partnership certainly brings out certain clarity to us that it is something that I think so a person has to be of certain kind and nature to do partnerships, and has to be of certain kind and nature to make things work their way in partnerships. Coming to a point where you told that you have HODs where every guy of your team is having an experience of around 15 to 20 years. What things do you see before hiring these HODs, and how do you manage or make the culture in your organization, and how do you drive them?
So I've learned one thing, Krish, is as a promoter or a leader of an organization, you should know what you're not good at. So I knew I'm not very good with numbers. I knew I'm not very great with execution. I knew I'm good in acquisition, deal structuring, documentation. I'm good in negotiation. So I first of all got people who are better than me in other things where I was not good. Two, I ensured that I will not poke my nose in that business. Let them make mistakes, provided the clarity is there that we have to do certain things certain way. I got myself back that I wanted to get people who could run it independently. So people who've been working with us is also last 8, 9 years, 10 years. Barely people who has left us other than the core function. Core function people have been there as a unit. So every person who's handling a domain is the boss of that particular entity. So what I looked at when people join me is 5 very simple factors. One, what is the jump that the person has done? If a person is leaving every 1 year an organization, I will not shortlist also that particular person. Two, what is the organizational growth path he's done as a hierarchy? Where he was, how he's grown as a position, junior manager, senior manager, GM, VP, etc., etc. I'm talking about the top level and the mid level, basically. Third very important factor I saw is I always ask them one question. What is the most challenging things that you've done in the organization, and how you've been able to create value beyond your job profile for that? that gives a person's IQ level of thinking that is he a 9 to 6 person, or he's a problem solver, or it gives an assessment that does he think beyond his salary for the organization. So that is one important thing for my top and mid management, which I see. Fourth, I see is what is the compassion he's had with his team people. Because I realize that any HOD or a leader cannot drive an organization. How you drive your people and your team is very important. Do you have compassion? Do you have EQ? So I always believe EQ beats IQ. If your heart and your value system and your moral compass is in right place, where you treat an opposite person in the right way, I think most of your problems are done. If your junior cannot love you, he cannot perform the best way. It's a simple thing. So to make someone loved also, you have to first understand his problems, his priorities, and give a patient ear that is he aligned with you and what are the things that disturb him. If these 4-5 things you are able to control, then you're able to build a great scalable team. So I look at people who can give their juniors the same thing which I give them. So are they in that? And last and the most important thing is I check with them that where do they want to be in next 10, 15, 20 years. If I feel, can I fuel the same level of growth in there? Because it is not only a position increment or a job increment or a profile increment or a financial increment. It's the overall well-being of how a person's thought process as a complete professional is aligned with what you as a leader is thinking. Then you know that this person, you will try your level best for that person to stay with you because you are touching upon all his soft points. Rest is destiny. Because if organization does well, I think money is as a byproduct will be mapped. But other things are getting mapped or no is very important. Like small things where someone has a child and he or she is a great professional to the organization. So I ensure that as an organization, we give them time flexibility. Someone is traveling from far. So we tell them that, boss, you can come 1 hour late, go 1 hour early. So let's not treat people like bonded laborers. We have to treat people in today's time. If you want to, the biggest challenge corporates are going to face is attracting, retaining, motivating, and then ensuring that they are loyal to you is going to be the biggest bandwidth of a HR in any company, forget real estate. So I believe that my team, if I can treat them as my family members and give them the empowerment and give them a roadmap of this is how the company will grow, they will be with you. Speed breakers will come, red stops will come, difficulties will come. They will not be able to do something on their own. Can I step in as an ambulance to solve their problem and be there as a backbone? If these are the few things, if you keep yourself clear with, I think good people will stay with you. And if they don't, God bless that. I'm sure that they'll make way for someone else who will be better, who will do justice to your profile, or maybe something else is better awaited for them, whereby they grow in their life, and all the best.
How do you react if someone is doing good at your organization, is contributing to a good level, but then takes a decision to leave the organization for maybe personal growth or maybe some other reason?
So, if there is a bilateral understanding that we were okay with this person going because somewhere we are not 100% aligned, we will not stop much as an organization. B is a person who's really doing well and he's somewhere not happy. We'll first address as a HR, my team. I've got multiple people who will address that. What are the concerns? I'm a believer, every confusion, every problem, every issue can be solved across a cup of coffee, across the table as a eye to eye, conversation to conversation. 90% problems can be solved with communication. If it is solved, issues are addressed, then the person is there to stay. If someone has personal problems or problems with geographies, relocating, etc., you can't do much. So at Paradigm, we really feel one more thing is a lot of people who've left us for further growth have later on joined us again in a few years. Because somewhere down the line, they felt that the young energy, the fire, the excitement, the ability to multitask, ability to do things beyond the curve, give full freedom to our team is there with Paradigm. So they sometimes come back also. We've seen a lot of people coming back. And we have a lot of programs of reward recognitions. We really applaud people who do well. We recognize them in our annual functions, annual site outs. We try to basically collaborate in the manner where a person is comforted. Because I only tell my HR and my team one thing, if a person is comforted mentally, he'll give you the best and he will live the best. If he's healthy mentally, he's emotionally connected to the organization, at least one thing is clear that he'll put efforts in the right direction. Success is destiny. At least you've got a person who's doing things the right way. I think that is important. No? Less, more, number game is a byproduct.
No, it gives a clear thought process with how you deal with people and how someone can retain people and also have them be loyal to you for the remaining journey as well. That's nice. Coming to the Paradigm 2.0, which is the current ongoing phase of Paradigm Group. So, what are the changes that you witnessed from Paradigm 1.0 to 2.0 apart from the partnerships part of it?
So, in Paradigm 2.0, we really understood the importance of systems and processes. Any scalable business can only happen when you're having the right system processes. So, we developed ERP now. We had a good mechanism where we were introducing IT to our growth phase. Digitally, we are now more savvy. Like, we take pride that we were one of the first organizations in 2015 who started giving construction updates every month, because we as a company did not have a legacy of experience. So we started showing our performance in today's day and age. So every monthly construction update, every annual report, every yearly annual report of what we've done in the full year. So we started doing these things which no other developer was doing. So we really understood the importance of how such things are playing importance in mind of a customer, vendor, supplier to bring in credibility to the organization. So in 2.0, systems, processes, getting people more organized in terms of KRAs, KPAs, having right team, right bandwidth for right work, introducing IT well, put in seamless processes where multiplication of efforts are not there. Like a small thing, now we are developing an app where a broker will, it'll be a Paradigm app where broker doesn't have to submit a brokerage bill. We'll have an automated system where he puts it in the system. He'll know that 3 days it's at site level, 3 days at accounts level, 3 days at the processing level. In 10 or 15 days, whatever the commitment of each site is, he knows where the money is going to be done, on which date it's going to be credited. So paperless, follow-up less, coordination less. So we are trying to develop that. 2, we are having a lot of BIM, etc. in our construction technology wing also. So that, of course, now today's time, aluminum formwork, having good contracting team, good processes in construction is a given. There is no compromise to make a great building or do 7, 8 lakh square feet in 2 to 3 years in one project without processes. But we're involving technology also, where all our budgeting, the kind of product that we are using, the kind of material we are using, the kind of value engineering we have to do is there on the drawing board only. So we call it the pre-work workshop for 6 months prior to launch. So the 3 to 6 months, we are putting in a lot of heart, soul and effort on having every level of detailing done before we hit the ground, so that there are no changes. Drawing board is done. See how internationally great products are made. When a guy starts a building, the drawing till the overhead tank is there in a booklet, day 1 with the contractor. There are no changes. So we've realized even if FSI is changing here and there, we'll not change our drawing. Kam zyada isko hi leke khatam karo, because every change has so much implication with delays, with wastage of money, wastage of labors, time lost, salary lost, admin lost. It erodes off your profits. So we are trying to put things in a tight knit where everything is there on day 1, all the permissions, approvals, good, bad, ugly, everything is day 1 there. So there is minimal changes unless market goes euphorically in a different turn and you have to change the flat sizes. Still we keep options, big flats to make it smaller also. We don't have to break the footprint, because we've now entered into cycles also where post-COVID, 1 bed, 2 bed, compact flats were a demand. Today luxury is demand. After 2 years, when we realize that too much of luxury will happen, then again small flats will come under demand. And a large project goes through 2 or 3 cycles. So you have to be relevant in every cycle of your execution plan. So we started realizing that. Another thing, in 2.0, we started realizing you cannot make any flat which are non-Vastu wise, because even if 10 flats have a wrong entry, those don't sell till OC. Another thing we felt is, what is more that we are giving as an organization beyond sales? Then we have a service wing, where all our projects up to 1 year of handover, we are maintaining ourselves. So we have the right housekeeping, right way to operate the common areas. People start learning and educating themselves into their new building the way it has been built by us. Because if you see, every good builder makes a good product. But after 1 year, society does not maintain it, because of which it becomes a stale product. So A, we don't want our brand to get hurt. 2, when people have bought a product looking at a certain vision that we are executing, at least maintain it in a manner where the building's longevity will be there for 25, 30 years, where your resale value is good, common areas will look good, the clubhouse functionality will be good, building quality will be maintained. So there is a handover manual that we started working on. Another thing we felt is today's time, we are doing something unique where any gated community, because all our flats are now 200, 300, 400 apartments. We are trying to internally make communities within the organization, within the building. So we are developing an app where if you are a buyer, what is your entire profile will be captured in the app. Similarly, all the people who have bought, their entire background, their job profile, what is the expertise will know. So we are trying to create a workflow where if there are 10 CAs in the building, there will be cross business within the building and the community. If there are 3 dentists, then automatically my dentist demands are done there. If there is a SOS issue, a health reason, then who's the doctor who's available? 4, if there is someone who's dealing into export-import, then they know these 3 people in the building are dealing into export-import. 4, there is a lawyer, then they know. So every facet, how people can co-live and have a flow which is intertwined, where there is business opportunity and a social opportunity within the complex. We're trying to make that app. So the answer is you know your neighbor. So today if you see a large complex like a Oberoi, a lot of Rustomjee complexes, what they've started doing is they've engaged the communities in a certain way. So those social people have 2 circles. One is my school, college or work friend, and second is my complex friends, complex group, complex or community network. So that is so good because you're living in a place where you are on a walk, you can do business, use the business center and communicate. Just have a SOS where you can pick up the call and someone is in your house in the next 2 minutes. These are the things which are going to be very, very important for good complexes to thrive.
Right.
So today, this is going to differentiate the services which are there in the complex, because everybody is making a good clubhouse, good swimming pool, good rooftop. No, I assume today's time, post RERA era and post NCLT and IBC norms, anyone who's making a building, he's going to make a good building. It's going to be 7 on 10 or 9 on 10 or 10 on 10, but nobody is going to compromise on the product. So what is the next of the product that we can give is the services.
That is the difference that you are making by just not selling a home, but a lifestyle.
Absolutely. So a lifestyle, now we all speak as developers, but what are we doing after handover is we are not taking care. I'll tell you, we've done few things which we felt is important as a value system. One of the projects we had made in 2018, in COVID, the car parking vendor went belly up and he was not able to maintain the parking. We spent 3 crore rupees on a new car parking system, which would give them warranty. Despite our project was 5 years after RERA. You have to do this. Because I'm doing Kandivali, Borivali almost, as an organization, we'll be selling about $500 million stock. Now, in that micro market, our reputation is most important. Why a customer or society should bleed where there is a 10-year warranty and today that vendor is not relevant, we have to change the equipment. We have to do. One of the building in 2019 I delivered, there was some rooftop leakage issue, which was after the warranty period of the developer. We did the entire waterproofing, entire rooftop tiling, entire rooftop amenity again. Why? Customers' flats cannot leak. RERA gives 5 years. We want to work and make a product where next 20-25 years, people live in a good harmony. So you have to recognize your mistakes also and owe up to it. We spending the small money at our scale and trying to redo it perfectly gets you the amount of recognition, reputation that इनसे गलती भी हो जाती है तो इनके vendor की भी गलती हो जाती है. They stand 5 years after handover also. You understand this word of mouth will spread away. How far?
This will give a return.
Exactly. We don't do it in the manner where we get return immediately. But you have to do thing what is right. See, you are not manufacturing an iPhone or a Toyota or a Tesla where every car comes out the same way in a mold that you have put. You are dealing with brick mortar, agencies, subcontractors, and various elements which you also depend ahead. You, according to me as a developer, we are an aggregator. We are not a manufacturer. We aggregate different teams and we deliver it and package it, and we are a packaging unit and we give it to people. But standing by what you have packed and given is the onus of a good and a great development company, which we from our experiences, our mistakes have learned and ensure that we stick to that.
Understood. You're making that difference in this whole phase. You are upgrading yourself and bringing the required technology, the required systems that need to be there to help you sustain and even take over certain market share and evolve your company. That's nice.
Again, 2.2, what we are also doing, Krish, is we are not expanding left, right, center. We've realized our focus is 80% Bandra to Borivali. We want to stick to that. We don't want to go again Thane. We don't want to go Pune, at least in the near 5-7 years of our Vision 2030 plan. Do a little bit in South Bombay, iconic building. So sticking to where you are good at and where you're known is better than trying and creating new markets. Because again, this development requires so much of micromanagement in trying to do things the right way. बोलते ना, नजर से हटी दुर्घटना घटी. Where you can't control or where your car cannot reach in 45 minutes of your drive time, you should not do business. That's my belief. Because something somewhere goes down, you can't handle, then you are using your quality time to grow and do things what is there in the kitty better in trying to firefight. So I am a believer that stick to your core areas, do very well there, and keep an aspiration that you are making one of the better buildings which are nothing less than the top 3 buildings in that vicinity. So that's the action plan that we have as Paradigm.
And considering this point of yours, making the best building, maybe at least a third in that locality, and like I have a conclusion based on certain conversations with certain people. With the time, the location is not going to demand the price. That differentiated product is going to command the price and make you win in the market. So coming to your future vision, where further do you want to drive the company further ahead, to what scale, and what do you have in your mind?
So I'll tell you, I have a 3-4 specific goals, which I feel there is a value that we can add, and a lot of our listeners who are developers or doing work in that area can keep in mind. I believe western suburb, Andheri to Borivali, has a potential to be as pricey and as preferred as a South Bombay of a Worli or a Mahalakshmi or a Prabha Devi or extended South Bombay. The amount of entrepreneurs, money spending capacity, infrastructure that is developed between Andheri to Borivali, I feel it lacks grade A gated communities. I feel there is a big opportunity and a requirement. Sometimes what happens, we get flown with making what sells, but we forget that it's important to develop what is the need of the market rather than trying to develop what it sells. Because if we try to develop what sells, will only give us bread and butter. The sushi and the cake is when you try and do things which is the demand of the market and understanding the pulse. So again, we are a data-based organization. We follow a lot of research reports, a lot of data from prop equity and such platforms, registration data, etc. So we've come to some conclusion in terms of numbers and understanding is Malad to Borivali belt has so much potential of graded development, and prices of certain properties are today even 45,000-50,000 rupees in this location. But it lacks gated communities which are in true sense a self-sufficient, preferred gated community, where, let's put it other way, Oberoi, Goregaon East Sky City, Garden City is not there anywhere in a West. Example. In West, people still, businessmen prefer to be in and around in West prime areas, whether you call it Mahavir Nagar, Chandavarkar Road, LT Road, Devi Das Road, great locations. We as developers don't have a ability because of deficiency, because of commitment to the old members, plot sizes, height restrictions, timeline to complete, are not able to give a product which is holistic in nature. When I say holistic in nature, is ensuring every angle it has been in a such a way where the person does not have to get out of that community. So I'll call it like that, that this location demands something like a DLF Camellia of Delhi, but we are not able to give. So I feel if a developer is looking at an opportunity, if he makes a product, like small things, we want to give products which are 11 to 12 feet height. We are developing products which are giving external columns. We are giving double glazed laminated windows and international sliding windows even in a product like Borivali. We are giving external columns where a person can always have Jodi options because the family sizes every 5 years change. Today you are not married. In 5 years you are married, in 8 years you have a kid. Your house you cannot change every 5 years. But your house configuration should be in a manner that you can keep changing and still adapt to your ever-growing family needs. So how you are keeping that scalability that a person doesn't need to change a house for next 20 years. You are not looking at importance of what services matter. Like in our new projects that we are launching, we're doing things like every complex has a separate elevator lobby for the Amazon Zomato of the building. When a proper lobby is there, why the services should come from the same lobby? Make a separate lobby, separate security system. People can keep a space for boxes Today, every lobby you see, there is Amazon, Zomato boxes. And people have to come down, up and down and wait, etc. Keep parking for the two-wheelers in a manner where that's a separate entry exit. Security is well maintained. Importance of health. Have separate servant room, driver rooms on every podium. Have their games room, have their lockers. So that building is itself functional. Where today's time person wants to go in the night, he needs a driver. He cannot be sitting in the building and loitering around. He needs to be in a dedicated space. Small things like today morning, I'm on the 40th story of my building. I get a phone call. I cannot enter the elevator for 5 minutes because my line will get cut. I've called my driver. He has to take 3 rounds of the building. He cannot wait in my building because my building does not have a space to accommodate 10-15 people getting out at the same time in the morning. So keep a driveway posh where a car can wait for 15 minutes when the promoter can come or the flat owner can come down on his own. For the first time, we are bringing in Borivali an air-conditioned elevator. I get ready in the morning. I'm on a 4 crore home. By the time I come and sit in the car, my shirt is fully sweating. Why can't I have one elevator which is air-conditioned, where morning 9 to 12 and evening 7 to 9 AC is on? It's not going to cost much, but the experience the person feels is nice. Small things like a child crash. We make a good child crash, but children predominantly don't like to stay in confinement. They like to run here and there. So from a 500 square feet crash, we want to make a 2000 square feet crash. The areas outside the crash should be padded well so that a child cannot fall. It should be child friendly. You don't need to worry. There are cameras which are 4 times more in the crash area and outside areas so that mother who's cooking in the kitchen or sitting in the living room can see where the child is on the camera. So even if the servant is here and there, they know the child is safe there. So eventually, I think it's all going to be narrowed down to services. Now, new complexes, we are bringing Jain Derasars. So it's not only making a Derasar and leaving. Getting a Pandit who is going to service my Derasar, keep community gatherings, have important festivals calendar, which comes in the app of my every residence. But that is lifestyle. My elders are taken care, my Dada Dadi are taken care, my child is taken care. That's how it's a self-sufficient home, where in simple language, my complex should become an extension of my living room. Because my living rooms are becoming smaller, so my complex common area should become an extension of my living room, and I'm blending well with the nature. That's the way that we look at it. Small things that we are looking now, apart from height and building, having cross-ventilation windows. Every dining area, we try to provide a window in large flats. So proper ventilation is there, 2-side opening is there. All windows, even if it costs us a little more, are giving corner windows so that view is open. A glass railing that we are trying to provide, we are trying to give it without the rims. Where I'm sitting on the bed, I don't want to see any spokes or a jali when I'm looking into the view outside. Now, all these things in the whole paradigm of my construction budget will cost me 200 rupees more. But imagine that 200 rupees more, or my involvement of our team into design philosophy is creating a lifetime difference into the product that we are delivering. So I feel there is nothing that we are trying to have a monopoly here. Every developer who tries to do these things in the right way, I think you are touching upon things which are beyond sales. And when you're touching upon things beyond sales, this market becomes amazing. And I'll feel very proud if I'll have 10 developers who think like the way I'm thinking today. That's how communities are thrived. Then people will leave South Bombay or Juhu and Bandra and thrive suburbs. So that's one place where we feel our vision is. 2, as an organization, we have a deep vision of developing a lot of cornishes in prime location. Like we're doing something at Cart Road, Pali Hill, Prabha Devi, Worli Seaface, something we are venturing in Bandstand. I feel the corniche of any suburb is always going to be a lifestyle statement, where the rich, affluent people who have deep pockets, people who have a network are going to come and stay there. How we can create those smaller plots, 1,000, 2,000 meters, 1,200, 1,500 meters also, and make it a world-class product, which a Singapore or a Shenzhen or a Dubai is able to give, even in the smallest of building, is going to be a big art. Like we are giving in building something called a car-free ground floor. Your ground floor in our luxury products is a resort. It's absolute resort. We have to construct one basement more, we have to construct one podium more, we do all the things. It's a product. Small buildings where today new products we are giving everywhere ramp and no puzzle system and no stack. But small buildings there is limitation. You have to give car lift, you have to give this thing. So give car lifts which are large in size, where a Wellfire or a Range Rover can go in. Instead of 2 car lifts in a building, give 4. So people don't have to wait. Small things which are going to matter in a long way. Not do products which give you less than 11 to 12 feet height. Because internal luxury or affordable, you need height. You cannot make 9.5 feet, 10 feet products. So these are the things that we are really differentiating ourselves. Common areas, have rooftop where you have a small area with kitchen. When there is a party, why should someone have a preheated food at that rooftop? There'll be a kitchen, there'll be a chef who will make it. You rent the terrace, you pay the maintenance to the society and enjoy hot food. Why a preheated food for a party? When you sit in a rooftop, 10, 20 families should be able to sit in various nooks and corners and enjoy the open air and ventilation and views. So you have to make products which speak that language. So these are the things that Paradigm 2.0, we are very thrilled about, that every product of ours will be a statement. Whether a mid-size or a large size, I'll take absolute pride on my chest and my badge as Team Paradigm on behalf of my team, that it will be one of the best buildings in the vicinity. If that's the vision, then we are happy to do lesser work also, but do the best quality work that we want to do.
Understood. I think so. Whatever you're trying to do, it all comes down to that thing, to giving a better standard of living to your customer and increasing the standard of living of the people in such a congested city of Mumbai. You are someone whom are looked a lot by the youth because of your tasks that you have achieved and milestones that you have crossed. I would like you to give a message or pass on advice to the youth that you think will be a great help. It doesn't have to be anyone related to real estate or any other. We are open for all industries.
Taking this question forward, the future of our industry and businesses as whole is the youth. What I've been really seeing, I'm myself 38, I'm seeing young generation like yours who are in their 20s to 30s, who are on the cusp of shaping their careers, of what to do, how to do, when to do. I've passed that journey. One good thing what I see in this youth today is everyone's serious about their career. Point number one. Two, everybody wants to live the good life. P. Everybody wants to have a work-life balance where they take care of their health, which is the most important, which people in our generation or my seniors have not taken care. These are few things which shape how your business is going to work. Now, my message to the youth is, while you got the education background and you know what is right and wrong, what is important is, like I said earlier in my in my conversation with you, start of your career, define whom you want to work with, not what you have to work. First, define with whom you want to work. Two, don't put yourself in a cage that I'm only going to do 1, 2 or 3 things. You have to flow with the organization, right from doing the smallest work to the most critical decision making. Keep yourself as open as possible. Don't confide, because times are changing very fast, markets are changing very fast. More you are learned as a youth, more your treasury, bank balance of wisdom, experience will relate in a higher manner, which will give you a better position and standing in the market. 3, don't look at life 20-20 overs. I'm not saying don't look at test match also. Give it a 50 over match. In a way that I'm trying to say, anything that you do, give a 2 to 4 year horizon, 5 year horizon. Don't keep jumping every year. Today I see that salary 30% hike you've got, you'll join somewhere with a more 50% hike and you'll keep jumping. A good resume is a mirror of your acumen. Don't keep jumping jobs for the sake of it unless there is an acute, genuine problem. Rather, choose an organization, choose a leader, choose a company after doing enough research that you would like to stay here for 3 to 5 years. Because that's the time where you actually cultivate your true learning, your true understanding of various facets. Because let's talk about our industry. Our industry cycle of one project is 3 to 5 years, right from acquisition to completion. So at least you be in a cycle where you see few things coming from start to end and you put your hands into various things. 4, my message to the youth is, India, right now the growth, we are just at the starting point. The growth for next 10 years is going to be unprecedented. The way global phenomena are working, unrest globally, China not doing well, other places not doing well, our sheer captive population is going to be the biggest trigger that every valid idea or business you are in, if you are able to give that edge, the X factor, something more than the product, I think your value as a professional is going to be 10x. your remuneration as a profession is going to be much higher than the normal salary brackets. And if you can put in that extra secret sauce into anything that you're doing, I think there is huge, abundant upward journey. Fourth, I feel is one thing is very important for the youth is to stay aligned and committed to one goal path. If you know that you have chosen a direction, like I said, besides time also, what is important is we spend 10 to 5 in the office. But how we spend 10 to 5 is also equally important.
Right.
Are you able to do justice? Because by not doing justice to the organization, you're not cheating the organization, you're cheating yourself. Are you in your limited time, age, energy able to extract maximum? Is the answer. If you can do that, God is going to be with you, your future is bright, and I think whether it's real estate or any other business, you're going to go a long way with these basic key principles, I feel, which each youth should follow.
And I said puts out a clear message and needs no conclusion. It was a great session, and it clearly speaks about how you have evolved and how your experiences have helped you to become the developer you are and the change you are making in the society by providing better standards of living and the quality of life to your customers and also the old members that were living in an building which didn't have much amenities and didn't have that standard of living. So it's a great contribution to the society as well, and did learn certain things from my personal end which I'll carry forward with me and also implement further. Very excited to see your Paradigm future vision, and best of luck to you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for becoming a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krish, for having me over. And it was nostalgic of trying to relive those last 17 years of my entire journey, or maybe 20 years, and put it into whatever limited time we could. And I wish you all the very best with your future. I think you have a great, bright future, and keep hustling, keep shining, and keep growing. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.